Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the controversy surrounding Piers Morgan and the Meghan Markle interview? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. Piers Morgan is a British television personality. He was on a show called Good Morning Britain, which airs on the ITV television network. For some time, he has been an outspoken critic of Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle is an American actress who married Prince Harry in 2018. On March 7, 2021, an interview with the couple, conducted by Oprah Winfrey, revealed accusations by Meghan and Harry against the British royal family, including racism and insensitivity to serious mental health concerns. The British royal family called the allegations concerning, but indicated they would address the family privately. Piers Morgan was not as subtle. On March 8, 2021, on Good Morning Britain, when referring to Meghan Markle's allegations about being denied mental health care, Morgan said, "Who did you go to? What did they say to you? I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she said. I wouldn't believe it if she read me the weather report. The fact that she has fired up this onslaught against our royal family, I think, is contemptible." It appears Morgan was looking for a little bit more specificity from Meghan. During the interview, she never named any individual responsible for the alleged wrongdoing. Morgan's comments caused an uproar among viewers and with his colleagues. The morning after his statements, in an attempt to clarify, Morgan said that suicide and mental health are important issues to be treated by professionals. At this point, we see a weather reporter named Alex Beresford delivered some harsh words for Morgan. Beresford said, "I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her." Morgan responded, "Okay, I'm done with this." As he stormed off of the set, he said, "Sorry, you can trash me, mate, but not on my own show. See you later." Beresford went on to call Morgan's behavior diabolical. Morgan would later return to the show and stress the importance for everybody to communicate in a civilized manner and work on the same team. He accused Beresford of launching into a petty, personal, derogatory monologue. Morgan would leave ITV. He has promised to return, although he probably means to broadcasting and not specifically to that show. This is not the first time Morgan has been fired and faced the prospect of rebuilding his career. Morgan would later suggest he had some time to reflect on his opinion, and he did not change his mind. He said, "Freedom of speech is a hill I'm happy to die on." After receiving over 41,000 official complaints about Morgan's comments, the British Office of Communications announced it would be investigating the comments under the harm and offense rules. Evidently, Meghan Markle also filed a complaint against Piers Morgan. Now moving to my analysis. This is another situation where somebody's talking about freedom of speech when it's not really a free speech issue. The government isn't persecuting Morgan for what he said. Rather, there's concern about where he said it, specifically on television. There are many people who are condemning Morgan's statements, but there are some people who support him. The question, I suppose, comes down to sensitivity, considering the gravity of Meghan's allegations, and specifically what she indicated about her mental health. Is it reasonable for Morgan to assert on a talk show that he doesn't believe a word she's saying? Furthermore, the history between Meghan and Morgan, to which Beresford alluded, seems to complicate the situation. In 2016, Meghan and Morgan had been communicating with some regularity, but then Meghan met Prince Harry, and Morgan claimed that that was the end of their communication. He has never heard from Meghan again. Morgan suggested that he was ghosted and that Meghan had ascended to a loftier place. There was no more room for people like him. He called her a social climber. In 2018, Morgan really started going after Meghan. 3 days before Meghan's wedding to Prince Harry, He referred to the wedding as an acrimonious, disorganized fiasco, although this time he was really blaming Meghan's family and not so much Meghan. He would get more specific about Meghan in 2019 when he compared her to Kim Kardashian. He said they were similar because they shamelessly lived their lives surrounded by lavish homes, cars, and flunkies. His criticism occasionally extended to Prince Harry as well. When Meghan and Harry announced they were stepping back from their duties as royals, he called them tone-deaf, hypocritical, narcissistic, deluded, bitter, and self-obsessed. Even though he included Harry, Morgan has typically reserved his harshest criticism for Meghan. So what do I think about some of the points that Morgan is trying to make? I'll go through the points one by one. First point, he has expressed concern that nobody is allowed to criticize Meghan without being called a racist bully. I think Morgan has a point here. Everybody should be subject to fair criticism, although one could argue his criticism is not fair. But he's right in the sense that nobody should be above criticism simply because there may be an ulterior motive for some people. Some people who criticize Meghan may be racist, but others would not be. This argument about criticism is something we see often. A person is criticized, and they immediately call out the critic, saying that the critic is the one who's actually bad, intolerant, and insensitive. Moving to the second point, Piers Morgan has suggested that Meghan and Harry should have been specific in their accusations. I see what he's saying, but there's a problem with this logic. If the reason for making the accusation was to hold somebody accountable, then yes, I agree, specificity is necessary for justice. You can't call the police and say somebody took your wallet, and then when they ask you who did it, say, I really don't want to get into specifics. However, in this case, Meghan and Harry were not trying to get justice. They were trying to explain why they left their positions. This was an explanation, not a request for a remedy. There was no demand. It was not an offensive move. It was a defensive move. Essentially, they were saying, look, we know that this looks bad. We know that leaving is unusual, but we had our reasons. Moving to the third point, Piers Morgan implied that Meghan was deceptive. Here's the difficulty with this. What if Meghan was telling the truth? What is an acceptable way for her to communicate information about mental health and racism? There must be some way for her to express her point of view. Is it really reasonable to believe that everything she says is not true? I think one can make an argument that some of the things that she has said on various occasions may not be accurate, but the idea that all of her statements are lies seems like a stretch. The fourth point, Morgan's assertion that Meghan was lying included her concerns about mental health. This specifically has worried a number of people. I think this is what's really causing a lot of the outrage. I think this is just a matter of insensitivity. Even when people don't like each other, even when they are arguing, there has to be a point where there is compassion. Piers Morgan is not a mental health expert. He is not in a position to evaluate claims about mental health. I think the danger with Morgan's position is that people will view that type of criticism and think that if they come forward with their own mental health challenges, they will be criticized. They will be doubted. The default position needs to be to take mental health concerns seriously. If somebody is lying, then they will receive services when they should not have. But if they were telling the truth, then believing them can save lives. So those are the 4 points Morgan made that I wanted to cover. What I find interesting about Morgan's reaction, like when he stormed off of the show, was that what Beresford was saying was really not that outrageous. Beresford was making an assumption. He was asserting that Morgan's relationship with Meghan was clouding Morgan's judgment. But under the circumstances, this seems like a reasonable guess. By storming out of the studio, Morgan was acting in a way consistent with how he conceptualizes Meghan. Someone who's too good for criticism, someone who is easily offended, someone who people are not allowed to criticize. Morgan has delivered his fair share of criticism to many people. One would think he would be able to tolerate a little criticism in his direction. As far as Meghan Markle's complaint about Piers Morgan, like her complaint about what he said on the show, I found this tactic curious. As I mentioned in my review of Meghan and Harry's interview, the pair really didn't concede anything. They made a lot of accusations and took no responsibility. Now, it could be that the truth is that they are 100% correct and the royal family is 100% wrong. But that is not likely from a statistical point of view. Given that the couple took such a statistically weak position, I don't know if it's a good move for Meghan to now pursue someone offering criticism. I mean, over 41,000 complaints isn't enough. A lot of people did come to her aid. This seems to be the protection that she was looking for from the royal family, but allegedly did not get. So now people are coming to help her. I think the strategy might backfire a little bit on Meghan, although Morgan is not necessarily a sympathetic character, and he has been criticizing her for several years. So maybe it's not going to be a big deal. As I think about this whole situation with Meghan and Harry, and now with Piers Morgan, it brings me back to an idea that I touched on in my video about the interview. All we have in these situations are statements. There is nothing in any of the statements that provides information on how to verify or refute the content of the statement. It's not like a court document attached to a box full of evidence. It's just a statement. Everybody can view that differently. I think people form a belief for or against Meghan, or for or against Piers Morgan, based on, in part, their own experiences. If the royal family reminds them of somebody in their own family where the dynamics were maladaptive, like the family was powerful and controlling, then it's easy to empathize with Meghan. Maybe she's telling the truth. If someone has been frustrated by people who deflect criticism by claiming to be the victim, then it's easy to look at Meghan and think, maybe she's doing that. In the case of Piers Morgan, perhaps being rejected by Meghan as a friend led to his criticism. It may explain why he seems to be so angry at her. Even if it didn't lead to the criticism, it certainly calls his objectivity into question. Perhaps that is the real problem here. Maybe there is a greater deficit of objectivity than what we see just with Piers Morgan. When looking at Meghan, people see their own best and worst experiences, dreams, failures, hopes, and often form their opinions based on that personal perspective. Maybe the lesson learned in this case is how fragile objectivity really is. This whole situation with Meghan and Harry is really like a big projective test, like a Rorschach test. The ink blots don't mean anything. They're random, but people see butterflies, demons, former lovers, just about anything in those ink blots. It is a stimuli onto which people overlay their own experiences. With all this celebrity drama, we never get the definitive result of something like a trial. We never actually get to find out the truth. Rather, we are left with a never-ending war of opinion. So those are my thoughts on the Piers Morgan, Meghan Markle controversy. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.